What's an outsider like you doing here? This isn't a place for old-timers to just hang around. The manager, mistaking me for a subcontractor from the main office, started barking at me. When I calmly pointed out how rude his behavior was, he shot me a glare, his eyes practically bulging with anger. I'm the boss here, and today's a busy day with an important board meeting. We don't need someone like you wandering around, getting in the way. Eventually, he ordered a nearby employee to have me escorted out. I couldn't believe it had escalated this far. But if they were that desperate to get rid of me, fine. Whatever happened with their big meeting was no longer my concern. I decided to head back home. My name is Gary. I've spent many years working for a major electrical equipment manufacturer. With my extensive experience, I'm practically a veteran at the company. We have branches worldwide, so I often find myself traveling for work. Despite the challenges, I find my job deeply rewarding and I'm grateful for the rich experiences it brings. This time, I was scheduled to visit our branch in Japan. I had worked there when I was younger, but shortly after joining, I was transferred abroad and hadn't had many chances to return since. This trip was for business, but I was thrilled at the thought of being back in Japan after so long. I wondered how many years had passed since I last saw the colleagues I had worked so hard with back then. I was really looking forward to reconnecting. With these thoughts swirling in my mind, I arrived at the office. As I wandered through the familiar hallways, peeking into various departments, a wave of nostalgia washed over me. The atmosphere hadn't changed much, and it felt comforting, almost like stepping back in time. However, when I tried to reconnect with my former colleagues and subordinates, I discovered that most of them had either retired or transferred elsewhere. A bit disheartened by how much time had passed, I left the sales department, the last stop on my little tour, and started heading toward my original destination. As I walked down the corridor, I noticed a man approaching me, his face twisted in confusion, his brow furrowed as if he were thinking, "Who is this guy?" I couldn't quite understand why he was looking at me like that. A quick glance at the badge hanging around his neck revealed his title: Director of Sales Planning, White. "Hey you." As we passed each other, White suddenly called out to me in a gruff voice. "Who are you? I don't recognize you." I considered ignoring his rude tone, but then decided to turn and face him. "Nice to meet you, my name is Gary," I said politely. Director White sneered as if the name meant nothing to him. "Gary, huh? Never heard of you. What's an outsider like you doing here? This isn't a place for old-timers to just hang around," he spat with disdain. His outburst startled the nearby employees, who quickly turned their attention to us, curious about the commotion. "No, I'm not an employee of this branch," I responded calmly, "but I am here on business today." "Business? You just came from the sales department, right? You must be a subcontractor here to negotiate something or other." "We don't handle sales here," Director White shot back. It was clear he had mistaken me for a subcontractor, but his attitude was abrasive, especially for someone who should be aware of proper decorum, regardless of who they were addressing. "Don't wander around like some low-tier subcontractor, old man. You're just in the way." I had been with this company for many years, but this was the first time I'd experienced such disrespect. With all due respect, it's better to approach someone with courtesy, even if they are a subcontractor. This kind of behavior is unreasonable and rude. He just sneered at my remark. What is this man thinking? I wondered, puzzled. "Ha, you think you can lecture me? Do you even know who I am?" he scoffed. "No, and that's precisely why you don't need to speak like that." What a noisy old man. "Do you even know what day it is? I'm managing an important board meeting today. It's incredibly busy. And what does that have to do with being rude? Having someone like you wandering around the office on such a day is a disturbance. You're Anne." Before he could finish, his harsh demeanor left me momentarily stunned, unable to believe such a crude individual was working at the Japan branch. "Hey, you, standing there staring like a fool. Get this annoying old man out of here now." "Yes, sir." A large employee, clearly directed by Director White, hurried over and grabbed my arm. "Hey, wait, stop," I shouted, but it was too late. I was unceremoniously expelled from the company. I stood outside for a while, staring blankly at the employee entrance from which I had been ejected. As I was being pushed out, I could hear murmurs from the employees inside. Director White is at it again. "Shh, don't draw attention. It's always like this. Gary, if we get involved, we'll face the backlash too." Exactly, let's just stay out of it. I don't know who that person is, but it seems they've caught the attention of a troublemaker like White. It was clear that Director White had a reputation, but what on earth was going on at the Japan branch? When I worked there, it was full of vibrant, talented people, and there wasn't anyone as self-centered as him. The employees I had just seen seemed genuinely afraid, as if intimidated by something. With my original purpose now thwarted, I decided to head to the airport and return to my base in Germany. As I took a moment to rest, my phone rang. It was the president of the Japan branch. Hello, this is Gary. President Gary, I'm relieved I reached you. Where are you right now? Why didn't you attend the board meeting? I'm sorry I missed it. I did visit the Japan branch and was walking around the office to greet colleagues before the meeting. Unfortunately, I encountered a man named White, who began yelling at me and had me forcibly removed. What? You met White? I can't believe it. His shocked tone suggested he hadn't heard about the incident, meaning it hadn't yet spread as a rumor within the company. Yes, he mistook me for a subcontractor, told me I was in the way, and then had me thrown out. I came straight back to Germany. I'm deeply sorry to hear that, President Gary. I could hear the president bowing deeply over the phone. I had no idea such a thing occurred. This is a terrible breach of courtesy. I'm truly sorry. No need for you to apologize for this. I can't believe President Gary was treated this way. I sincerely apologize. The president's genuine regret was evident, and it was clear that the situation was far from acceptable. I was unaware of the full extent of the situation, but the Japan branch president's urgency and regret came through clearly over the phone, underscoring the seriousness of the mistake. It's understandable why things unfolded this way. In reality, I am the president of the German headquarters for this major electrical equipment manufacturer. I moved to Germany at a young age and have accumulated extensive experience over the years. Through continuous learning about the latest industry knowledge and economics, I have quietly enhanced performance and made significant contributions. Even during crises at the German headquarters, I successfully navigated us through tough times. This achievement was a collective effort involving invaluable support from employees and colleagues with whom I collaborated, debated, and refined skills. As a result, I was recently appointed as the president of the German headquarters, thanks to our global expansion and the results we achieved. My visit to the Japan branch was meant to mark my inaugural address at the board meeting and to outline a strategy for strengthening management in Japan as my first major initiative. From what I observed, the situation at the Japan branch seemed problematic. Yes, you're correct, the Japan branch president acknowledged. We are currently dealing with a difficult situation involving a problematic individual. I hate to ask this over the phone, but could you provide more details about the situation? I asked. Yes, Gary, I'm quite embarrassed to admit this, but as you might have noticed, White is a problematic individual here at the Japan branch. The Japan branch president confessed, his tone reflecting considerable concern. So you're saying that White presents himself well to me and higher-ups, but he's problematic with subordinates and clients? I inquired. Exactly. I also sensed something was off about him, but it seems he's quite the troublemaker, he confirmed. And what happened at the board meeting? At the board meeting we expected you to attend, White presented a crucial strategy, which was approved. That explains his anxious behavior before the meeting. However, there are suspicions that he's been gathering talented subordinates to develop strategies and then presenting them as his own. There's no concrete proof, but such stories have circulated. I see, so he's trying to advance his career by taking credit for others' work? It's surprising he's made it to director level with such behavior. Yes, White is clearly aiming for an executive position. There are rumors that he's claiming credit for his colleagues' and subordinates' achievements. Without intervention, he will likely be promoted to an executive role. He's very manipulative. If that's true, it's a serious issue. It could lead to staff complaints and severe disruptions, affecting the company's discipline. While White is the main problem, I also believe the Japan branch president, who had suspicions but took no action, shares some responsibility, I pointed out firmly. Yes, I acknowledge my shortcomings in controlling White. I never anticipated he would go this far. Since there's no concrete proof yet, our first priority should be to conduct a thorough investigation into White's actions. If the rumors are accurate, we'll need to find solutions together. Understood, President Gary. Thank you. I will closely monitor White and uncover the facts. I ended the call with the president of the Japan branch. About a month later, on the day of the Japan branch's board meeting, I landed in Japan again and made my way to the meeting room. President Gary, everything is ready, and I'm looking forward to today. I know it must have been challenging to gather all this information. You've done well. Thank you for your efforts. As the executives gathered for the meeting, White arrived, looking self-satisfied, as if he anticipated his promotion would be confirmed that day. White, could you come over here for a moment? The president of the Japan branch called. White noticed me, and our eyes locked. What? Why is that old man from before here? Wasn't he just a subcontractor? White muttered under his breath as he walked over. Director White, it's been a while. This time, I was able to attend the meeting without being forcibly removed, and I must say, it was worth it. Last time, you treated me like a bothersome old man, and I couldn't overlook it. White looked utterly bewildered, glancing around at the other executives for clarification. Calm down, Director White. I'm not just a lowly subcontractor. It appears you were unaware, but I am the president of the German headquarters. Understand now? I said, giving his shoulder a light pat. The German headquarters? You? Are you serious? I thought you were Japanese. No way, you must be joking. White's panic was palpable, and the surrounding executives began murmuring among themselves, surprised by the revelation. Do you remember how you treated me? You called me an old man, insulted me, and had me thrown out. I continued, my tone steady. White's face turned ashen, and he fumbled for words, his earlier confidence completely gone. The room buzzed with tension as the executives processed the unexpected turn of events. Hey, what? I mean you must be mistaken. I don't know what you're talking about, White stammered, trying to act confused. Don't play games with me. You claim to be the director of the Japan branch but don't even recognize me? I've had you thoroughly investigated this past month. We have a lot to discuss. You investigated me? I haven't done anything wrong. What's happening here? White's voice grew increasingly frantic. After our call, I instructed the president of the Japan branch to discreetly assemble an investigative team. They monitored you closely, conducting daily interviews with employees to examine your conduct and actions. I said, my voice rising for a moment before I composed myself, and began reading from the report. It seems you've been pushing employees you dislike into dead-end positions. No, that's not true, White protested. You've been spreading false rumors and creating conditions to force these employees out of the company. Some were even harassed into resigning. Who fabricated these stories? I asked, clearly displeased. White's face went pale as the implications of the investigation became clear. The room was filled with murmurs as the executives absorbed the gravity of the situation. I have no recollection of such things, White insisted, though his voice wavered. I continued reading from the report, the severity of the allegations evident. It's not just the sidelined employees who are reporting these issues, I said, frowning as I scanned the pages. There have been numerous reports of sexual misconduct from female employees. They allege that you touched their heads when no one was looking, persistently invited them to dinner alone, and when they refused, the harassment began the next day. These incidents are too many to dismiss. White's facade of composure shattered. Don't joke with me. Who would believe such lies? I don't remember inviting anyone to dinner, and I'm certainly not desperate enough to hit on any of the women at this company, he protested loudly, sweat beading on his forehead. The people who ended up in dead-end jobs chose that themselves. It wasn't my fault, they were just incompetent. I was appalled that even now, White was still making disparaging remarks about the employees. His lack of accountability was staggering. That's not all, I continued, my tone hardening. You hardly do any work yourself, pushing it onto your subordinates instead. Because of you, they often have to work overtime. They're not just doing their own jobs but yours too, and yet. I paused, glaring sternly at Director White. You take all the credit for their work. That's a false accusation. White blurted out, desperation creeping into his voice. Is it really false? I challenged. I hear that the strategy you submitted and got approved wasn't actually your idea. Don't spout nonsense. That was definitely my plan. I worked on it, sacrificing my sleep. Someone must be jealous of my ideas, holding a grudge, and making up these false reports. But there are more reports of your wrongdoing, I pressed on. It's also come to light that you've been misusing company funds for leisure. Do you still intend to deny it? White's expression shifted from anger to panic as the weight of the accusations bore down on him. The room fell silent, the other executives watching the unfolding confrontation with a mix of disbelief and concern. Give me a break. Misusing funds for leisure? It was business entertainment, White shouted, his voice rising in desperation. It's because everyone else is useless at bringing in business. I had to handle it myself. How is that playing around? His eyes darted around the room, glaring at the executives as if throwing a tantrum. Enough? I cut him off, my voice firm. You're all talk, but your actions show you're a fool who mistreats valuable employees and subordinates, all while chasing your own selfish interests. You're the real hindrance to this company. Don't mess with me. You have no idea how much I've struggled for this company, White retorted, his anger barely masking his panic. The inconvenience I'm suffering from this false accusation is my own. How long do you plan to keep up this charade? It's disgraceful. Just stop it, I replied, my patience wearing thin. We have all the evidence. Everything has been thoroughly investigated. There's no escape for you now. I thrust a stack of reports at him. As White glanced at the damning documents, his complexion grew increasingly pale. When did you gather all this? White muttered, his bravado crumbling. Damn it all. My hard work. His voice trailed off as he collapsed into a chair, defeated. The room fell into an uneasy silence as the other executives, the Japan branch president, and I watched him in stunned quiet. In the days that followed, White's mismanagement and misuse of company funds were made public. His dismissal was inevitable, a necessary response to his egregious behavior toward employees and subordinates. As he left the company, the once assertive White had lost all his vigor, his figure now gaunt and diminished. What goes around comes around. I could only hope that White would reflect on his actions and, in whatever new company he joined, avoid repeating the same mistakes, returning to his original intentions and starting anew. Despite how things ended, I couldn't help but believe that White wasn't always this self-serving. I wanted to think there was a time when he, alongside his colleagues, genuinely worked to improve the company. Perhaps he lost sight of himself along the way, unable to stop his downward spiral. In such a world, I truly hope that he can find his way back to the person he once was. Let's revert the strategy that was credited to White back to its original creator and implement it immediately. Also, for those who were forced to resign because of his actions, I want to offer them re-employment. We must also ensure our current employees receive proper mental care, I instructed. Understood, the president of the Japan branch replied. With that, a new project team was formed, led by the creators who had lost their motivation after having their achievements stolen by White. Now, the employees' morale is surging once again. This company still has tremendous potential for growth. Moving forward, I plan to engage more directly with the executives, employees, and subordinates, not just at the Japan branch but across the entire company. President Gary is an incredible leader, someone I deeply respect. Inspired by his example, I am determined to connect more closely with our staff and work diligently to improve the company just as he has. With White's issue resolved, the Japan branch is now on a more secure path. I believe the days of employees living in fear are behind us, and that the Japan branch will transform into a vibrant and positive workplace. With this belief, I left Japan once again, feeling grateful and proud to be a part of this company. I am committed to fulfilling my responsibilities with renewed dedication, both in Germany and around the globe, as I continue to lead a busy and purposeful life.